morning, everyone. I went and sat in the blind this morning. Haven't seen any deer. Archery season's over for me because it's now muzzleloader season. Didn't see anything during archery season, so it's not looking good. But today I have some plants to deal with. We're inside the old greenhouse where I planted a bunch of tomatoes in, I think it was July. And they have done very well. At first we had a lot of problems with some tomato hornworms and some army worms, but they seem to have gone away now. And the plants look great, but we're getting freezing temperatures, so I'm not sure what to do with these. I wanted to show them to you before they die. So these are the tomatoes. They're very green. They look really good, much better than the ones up in the garden did. And they are loaded with tomatoes, but unfortunately they're all green. So I'm not sure. There's a big one. We also have a pepper plant in here that's got some small bell peppers on it. There's a bunch in there. But it's supposed to hit like 30 degrees. You can see all these tomatoes, and they're all, every single one of them is green. There's a bunch in there. So even though we live down here in the south, we don't really like fried green tomatoes. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all of these tomatoes. I don't know if I should leave them on the plant and wait till the cold kills the plants off, or if I should harvest them and put them in the walk-in cooler and hope that they ripen. I think that's what I'm gonna do. At least harvest most of them. But we also have some onion plants that I started. I started some onion seed, a bunch of weeds in here. But these aren't quite tall enough to be transplanted out yet. There was 500 seeds and there's not 500 plants there. But those ones are not ready to be transplanted out. Now I do have some that I started sooner than these ones, and those are ready to be transplanted out. So we're gonna head up to the garden and we're gonna put those in the ground. Okay, so we're up here in the garden and we're doing something a little bit different this year. If you can see behind me, we put some landscape fabric down on the ground. Now this is where we had tried to plant corn last year and the squirrels ate it all. So we got a little bit of corn, but not much. But if you can see right, I don't know how to do this, right here, we have some bug fabric up because we just transplanted out our celery, some Brussels sprouts, and some broccoli. So let's take a look at that. So right here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tiny, get out of the garden. We've got 6 celery plants there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Brussels sprout plants right there. And then the rest of this row is all broccoli all the way down. I believe there's about 46 plants, I believe. And they look pretty good. Hopefully they survive the winter. Some of them had gotten some bug damage. I don't know if you can see that very well, but they got some bug damage before we transplanted them out. And I had them down there in the other, I guess it's a hoop house now, with the tomatoes. And the bugs started eating on them, so I wanted to get them up here and in the ground and get this bug netting over them. I don't know if there's any more bugs for the rest of this year, but I didn't want to chance it. And from what I remember last year, these won't be anywhere, or these won't be ready to harvest until sometime in the spring. So all we can do is hope that they make it through this winter, and then in the spring they'll put on the broccoli heads. Fingers crossed, because so far in the 3 years that we've been here, I haven't done very good with broccoli. I've gotten a couple of heads, but nothing great. The bugs normally eat it as soon as it starts putting its leaves on, so hopefully this works out. Now, on the other side of this broccoli here, there's a little bit of opening between this landscape fabric and that one, and I put carrot seeds in there. I don't know if they'll sprout, but they're in there. And then let's walk around this way. In the next row of landscape fabric, right here, you can see we've gone through and melted holes every 6 inches. This row right here is full of garlic, and this row here started with garlic and it went all the way down to the red stake down there. I thought it was going to be 1 row of garlic and 1 row of onions, but we had more garlic than I thought. So right here is the last garlic clove that I planted. So we're going to transplant these onions now into the rest of this row here. And then I'm sure when the other onions are ready to be transplanted out, we'll have to melt holes in the next row of landscape fabric. And we'll do the same thing every 6 inches. Because last year when we planted the onions, they would have done much better, except they got totally swamped by weeds. I mean, it was just so overwhelming. I weeded it a couple of times, but within like 2 days they were buried in weeds again. So hopefully this works. We've never done this before, but you know, everything in gardening is trial and error. You try it, and if it works, then you keep doing it. If it doesn't work, you try something different. This is what we're going to try this year. So I'm going to put these onions in, and I'll bring you back when I have them in, and I'll show you this, and I have one other thing to show you. Wow, muddy. It rained all night. Ground is still hard though. All right, not sure how. I'm gonna get these out of here. I guess just by the handful, like this, like so. And then we'll just gently pull them apart. They're very, very wet because it did rain all night, so. I really hate to put all this dirt on top of the landscape fabric. All right, so you just stick those roots down in there and cover them up. And I know you're supposed to feed onions when you plant them, but I don't have anything to feed them, so let's hope that they do okay. I'm making a mess here. I'm gonna have to brush this off. Like I've got too many onions for this row. Not all gonna fit. corn. I sure hope we get all these onions to grow this year. We didn't get any last year, so we're going the year without onions. All right, looks like I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more in this tote. So I'm just gonna leave them here for now until I'm ready to transplant the other ones, and then I'll have Eddie come through and melt me some more holes. So, I mean, they've been outside ever since I planted them, so it's not gonna hurt them any. They'll be fine. Whew. Got hot out here all of a sudden. It was so cold this morning. But I've got one more thing that's growing that I need to harvest before the freeze kills it. I think it's not tonight, but tomorrow night. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to get down to like 30 degrees. So over here we have a volunteer plant that's been growing all year. And it is my Tabasco peppers. So they look great, and a ton of them are definitely ready to be harvested and be made into Tabasco sauce. So yeah, see, they just pop right off when they're ready. If you just like pull them just a hair, like you don't want to pull hard, but if you just pull on a little bit, if they're ready, they'll pop right off. So I've got to get all of those harvested so that I can make Tabasco sauce. We're just about out of Tabasco sauce that I made year before last. I didn't make any last year, I don't think. I think it was the year before last that I made it. And then this tomato plant is still hanging on, and it's got a tomato on it. So I might harvest that one too. And don't mind the mess in the garden. It's a disaster. Weeds everywhere. We haven't pulled anything out. We haven't weeded anything. We've got to do it this winter. Get all of this cleaned up and ready to go. I didn't make quite enough compost. I didn't make anywhere near enough compost. That basil still smells great. This stuff went to flower a long time ago. Look, the bees are still eating on it. There's a bee there, and there's a bee over there. And that's why I left the basil. It still smells really, really good. Even though it's dying and turning brown, I'm just leaving it. The bees are enjoying it. Oh, looky there. I just now noticed, I had no idea. But there's a tomato right there. And there's a couple over there, which is weird because there's no leaves on that plant. There's some tomatoes up there. But yeah. Couple of white cucumbers, and they were not white. They're not a white variety, but I planted these cucumbers in hopes of being able to make salads, and for some reason they're all white. Every single one of them is white. I don't know why. They're the same variety I planted in the summertime, but for some reason they all came out white. So well, that's it for the garden. Just a real big mess that we're gonna have to clean up this winter. Oh, I was saying I didn't make nowhere near enough compost for the garden this year, so not sure what I'm gonna do with that. It actually takes a lot of materials to make enough compost. Like, we've taken all the materials that we can. Now this fall or this winter, I don't know when winter starts, we will go around and rake up the leaves and add those to the compost. But I've got one compost pile that is ready to be used, so I'll probably use that in, you know, one of the first things that is going to get planted other than the onions. I'm not going to bother putting it in there. We did till in some leaves into this ground where we put the onions. I don't know if that's going to help or hurt, but the ground is so compacted that I was hoping by tilling some leaves into it, it would you know, add some organic matters and maybe loosen it up some. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I grew up in Maine. You know, you go outside with a shovel and you could dig a hole to China. Can't do that here. Anyways, guys, I know it was a super short video. Just wanted to show you what was going on with the garden, and I'll see you soon.